Well, tell me, mama, what's going on? Tell me, darling, what's going on?
Welcome back, everybody. A little lunchtime bacon and egg show on a Friday. Show number 77, March 25th, March Madness 25th, 2022. Jay, what a shot back there behind. Look at the could you ask for better weather to film outside than today?
No, man, it's a beautiful day to be outside, just out here at the soccer fields, out here at the Dove Springs Recreational Park, soaking in this sunlight. What a beautiful day. What a great day to be outside. What a great day to talk some sports, man. So let's hop right into it.
Yeah, let's jump into it here. We got a special, well, we'll kind of get to our special correspondent segment here real quick, but let's open up the cup of coffee with some postseason March Madness basketball happening tonight. That unfortunately doesn't involve the Longhorn men's team. Wish they were still playing and would be playing tonight, but the women's team on a pretty good roll here heading into the Sweet 16 against Ohio State. Have to think Texas is in good shape in this one, right? I know Ohio State's played some good ball, but Texas looks pretty good right now.
Yeah, it's sort of that flip, the reverse of what they were last year when they were the 6th seed going into this round and got that victory. Hoping to stave off this a pretty good Ohio State team this year, but obviously very well coached. Vic Schaefer has them playing really well right now. And when you hear one coach talk about peaking in March, and then you actually see another coach's team actually peaking in March, it sort of gives you that different perspective to look at it from. But their freshman All-American has been playing really well. They got all of their talent is most of their talent is on that younger side anyway. So this is not a women's team that's going away anytime soon. And Coach Schaefer has continued to recruit extremely well and will do so moving forward. So a lot to be excited about with this women's team, and hoping they can pull out a victory this evening against Ohio State.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it sounds like from going forward, especially once Texas moves to its new home in the SEC, we might have a women's basketball correspondent that could be providing some updates for us. Jay, you want to give us a little lead in here on what we've got to share today?
Yeah, so we had a Bacon and Eggs Roadshow correspondent this year at the SEC Women's Tournament. Patsy Beebe, my Aunt Patsy, was out there at the tournament and sent us some great videos. We wanted to share this one specifically with the audience because it sort of lends itself to that move for Texas to the SEC, and sort of at least one fan's opinion from an SEC school on how that would look. So, Kerry, we got that queued up and ready to go.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's take it away.
Let's fire that up.
Hello, I'm here with my friend Deb from Florida. Say hi, Deb.
Hi.
Deb, how do you feel about the Longhorns joining the SEC next year?
I don't like it. I think the SEC is getting too big and the teams are so equally competitive, they're just cutting each other's throats.
Okay, there you go, JP.
And there you have it. See, that's essentially
we're
going directly to the top of the Florida Athletic Department and getting an official opinion on the fear that runs throughout the conference about Texas joining the SEC.
I think it does speak volumes for where this program is and where Texas is in general in terms of making that jump over to that new conference. And because despite, if we're talking football here, I don't know that there would be as many people that might be as afraid of what's going on in this football program at this exact moment. However, there are quite a few sports where Texas athletics will jump in and immediately be contenders, and women's basketball is definitely one of them. So I wanted to give a shout out to our Roadshow correspondent there, Patsy Beebe, for sending for taking the time to send us some clips from the tournament, and I'm glad we were able to get it right from the mouth of a Florida fan about their feeling about Texas joining that conference.
Absolutely. I hope she had a good time out there. I know we had a wedding in Nashville the same weekend as the SEC women's tournament. We stayed there near the arena, and I can confirm that was quite an atmosphere. If that was any preview of what Texas and various sports is going to be getting involved in, it's going to be it's going to be interesting. It'll be entertaining to say the least. So yeah, I
All
love
right,
that.
good stuff.
Love that content. Hope we get more of that coming in the future.
Absolutely.
Well, let's move along. We'll go to the men's side here. We last show, with Longhorn Insider and Dr. Roto contributor Michael Holland talking about kind of previewing what this Texas team would look like in the tournament, what we would need to. We posed a few questions about what would Texas need to do to win a game and to advance to the second weekend. Let's just kind of let's reflect a little bit here on how this season ended, and specifically these questions. I mean, were we expecting this team to look as good as they did against Virginia Tech? I know it got a little dicey there at the end. They kind of, the Hokies pulled back in and got it a little bit closer, but this was about as dominant of a game as Texas played all season, right?
Yeah, and I think what we saw was a different. I feel like Chris Beard coached the team differently that day, because you saw, if not the best, definitely one of the best games that Marcus Carr had all season. And I felt like it was because it was so much more free flowing for him, and it turned and it bled into the second round as well, where you felt like this is the guy that we thought we were getting when he transferred over before the season. Like that was the type of talent, the type of, not overthinking, the type of just being a basketball player that I know you and I thought, and Mike definitely thought, that was going to be on campus. And it's a shame that it really took that long for that to come out, because I did feel like that Chris Beard sort of took the reins off a little bit of the offense and just let them be basketball players. And hopefully that's something that can carry over into the offseason and as Chris Beard's second season starts. But the short answer to your question is no, I didn't honestly expect them to look the way that they did and to excel the way that they excelled in that first round matchup, and definitely hung around in there in that second round too. And, they lived up to their seed. Okay. So it's one of those things where you just, you take that and you move on. But yeah, man, I think that overall the tournament experience for Chris Beard in his first year at Texas, to win that game that Texas hadn't done in 8 years, I do think it's a positive step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think the one of the kind of general questions we also posed was what will define a successful season. And I think, it was the Purdue loss hurt, because that was a winnable game. That was if Texas didn't go cold in the first half, and Purdue, and give Purdue credit, but if Texas didn't miss 16 straight shots, which they had good looks on as well, like the shots just weren't falling, and Purdue goes on a 20-0 run. I mean, Texas probably wins this game going away against a really good Purdue team. And I liked Beard's strategy. I liked the game plan that they had laid out, and they played loose, and but Purdue's a really good team. You can't make those kinds of mistakes and expect to get out of there with a win, but it felt different. It felt different than some of the losses we've seen this season. And to me, it was, I'm coming out of the season feeling optimistic, which if you would have asked me a month ago, I don't know if I would have said that, because it just didn't look right. But something about these two tournament games looked right to me. And I'm curious how you feel about that, about kind of like, the fight that they put up in the tournament, and where did Beard kind of figure it out? Maybe too little, too late, but did he kind of figure it out here towards the end, and now maybe has an idea of where to go this offseason to improve this thing?
It's a very fair question. What I hope it's not a matter of, I honestly hope it's just not him figuring it out that late in the season. Like you see the adjustments, you see the way that they were just more free flowing, just more playing without thinking, which is where Marcus Carr got into trouble for the majority of the season, where when he wasn't having his best games, it just looked like he was overthinking stuff, just not just playing basketball. And you got that with a lot of those players. There just wasn't that guy to step up and pull them out of that funk. There wasn't that one player that you needed to be like, okay, I'm the slump buster. I'm going to get us out of this, and then we can, get out of this drought. Like you said, the shots weren't awful, but when you just have to have a bucket getter, and even Carr on that night couldn't make it happen. So, Timmy Allen disappearing in that second round matchup really didn't help. That was probably, if it wasn't, it might have been his worst effort of the year, just total game wise. And I mean, with the foul trouble that was caused by, Purdue is just so long and big and tall. And, a Trey Mitchell would have really been nice
Oh
to have
yeah.
in a situation like that, like huge. Cause you got Christian Bishop, who's already said he's going to return for next season, which is a
Yep.
big plus, along with the glue guy, Brock Cunningham, have both committed to come back next year. But, Bishop is a lot more comfortable playing at the power forward position. That's more of his
Right.
natural role. And he had to play the 5. He had to play more of a natural center position, which is, it's not, I mean, he can, but against those guys that Purdue had, and Bishop didn't have an awful game, but you would have rather had more depth there, because Timmy Allen is definitely more of a 3, hang around not the perimeter, but that mid-range game. And he does have his post moves when he needs them. But in terms of defense, like he's not gonna clang and bang down low with 7-footers. So it would have
Well,
been
even
really nice
Disu
to
did
have.
what he could do,
And
but
I
what are you
wanted,
going
I
to do
wanted to
against
ask
two
you.
7-footers, right? I mean,
Well, and I
that's
wanted to ask you too. What did you? Disu only got like 9 minutes. Is that something that you would have? Is that somebody that you would have looked at getting some more time in there?
yeah, because he looked good in those minutes.
Yeah.
I absolutely would have given him some more time because he looked like he was finally playing with some confidence. And he
Yeah.
was playing loose, like on both sides of the floor. Like he was wanting to be involved. You could see how he was wanting to like be a part, be a focal point really, and
Right.
kind of put the team on his back a little bit. So yeah, I would have absolutely given him some more time, especially given those depth issues. But I mean, Purdue's a matchup nightmare. They're a matchup nightmare for anybody.
Yep.
And so it's hard to, again, it's kind of hard to like come out of that feeling, and they almost pulled it off. That's the whole thing. Like, that's where I have faith in Beard at this point to kind of like, his game plan nearly worked. I mean, if you make 5 out of those 16 missed shots, totally different game. I know that's,
Yeah.
it's all retrospect and, hindsight's 2020 and all that stuff, but it's an optimistic feeling coming out, and let's see what he does recruiting wise. Let's see if he hits the portal as hard as he did last season, this off season. But yeah,
Well, you gotta hope that he doesn't have to, right? Like some of these guys will
right.
come back, and then you hit that. You don't want 9 new players on your roster every
Right.
season, but with the way that the portal is set up now and the one-time free transfer without a penalty that players are allowed to take, like you got to imagine that Beard is going to live in that portal. He's already shown that he can recruit through the portal and bring guys in, and he has it now where he can just say, guys, we're a step away from being a really, really, really good team, and you can
Right.
come in and be a part of that. Like he has that in his back pocket. So I think he will get a couple out of the portal. Obviously, there's a couple of really strong recruits that he has, in the books right now. And what you just got to hope for is for him to find a way, not just to figure out his team earlier in the year, but we forget that this was year 1 in a new program.
Yep.
For a coach, and not just any program either, a program that, in spite of a lack of success across the history of this program, sustained success, repeated success, that Chris Beard, because of his salary, is expected to come in and immediately be a Final Four coach. And I think that we need to sometimes we need to take a step back a little bit and understand, like, this was year 1. He did win a tournament game, which hadn't happened in Austin in a long, long time. Not wanting to not making excuses for falling short, but again, like, I think cautiously optimistic is a really good way to put this, and just knowing that next step is right there to be taken. I feel like that's something that he can build on.
It was a great foundational year. Maybe not great, but a foundational year. Like, it's something that, okay, if this was going to be season 1 and this is going to be the floor, this was a good place to start. Get a first round tournament win. You put up a good fight in round 2. Now build off of it. Don't be a 6 seed next season kind of thing. Like, start to build off of it. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. So speaking of more, we'll move on from that into just a little bit of football, more interesting off-season stuff. Speaking of, Texas relays are this weekend here in Austin. Talk about the weather. What a great weekend for Texas relays, but
Chamber of Commerce stuff.
it really is. And we were joking before the show. This is like the permanent entry on our like show notes and show run is Arch Manning watch. And we almost need like a little red siren effect or something. Like he will be on campus this weekend. Everybody be advised, Arch is in town. So do you expect anything to come out of this weekend? I know we know his commitment timeline is going to be a little bit earlier than a lot of other national 5-star type players because, it's quarterback. You want to kind of Pied Piper of the class, and we're into spring ball. So are you expecting anything, or are you just thinking it's going to be the usual 995 reports about, he had a great weekend and loves Sark?
Yeah, I don't think that we're going to hear anything directly. God dang, I got these wasps going all around me. I'm going to move real quick. But what I was saying is I do think that we'll hear those reports that we've been hearing. But I don't think we're going to get that commitment. I don't think we're going to get that finalized sort of, I'm coming to Texas, but I do think we'll hear all the normal stuff. And honestly, for me, this is Texas recruitment to lose at this point. I really think
feels that way.
I really feel like this is Texas's recruitment to lose. And I think this is why you bring in Steve Sarkisian. It's not because he was known as a great game day coach coming into this. It's because he's an elite recruiter. Like, this is what he does. He reels in the big fish, and there is no bigger fish right now or in a long time than Manning. So for me, I feel like this is why you bring him in. And I think it would be more devastating to not get Arch than even positive to get him, because I think that, I don't know if it's more devastating is the right word, but for me, it's like, again, this is why you brought Sark on, to bring in guys like this. And if he's not able to pull this off, then you got to start to wonder, okay, like, is that next step in terms of the game day, as being a game day coach, is that going to take a next step in the process? So that's, for me, that's where I'm at with this. What do you think? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, it feels like it's Texas's to lose. This is an interesting, I haven't dug too deep into the 23 class. I'm sure Mike can provide a lot more background on this, but like, you're not hearing a lot of names about backup options. Like there's no like, okay, well, if you miss on Arch Manning, here's another 5-star that's like right up in that tier that's interested in Texas, and you can pivot towards that. Like it's it has the feel of an Arch or bust type recruitment. And like you said,
that's the phrase. Yeah, that's the phrase.
And like you said, if you miss on that, it is kind of more devastating because there's so many kind of downhill effects that come from getting his commitment. We've talked about Reuben Owens on this show. We've talked about other, like, the numerous wide receivers, like all the, offensive players around the country that want to play with Arch. If you don't get Arch, well, it makes it that much more difficult to get those other guys. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Hope he enjoys the weekend. Hope they, gets out onto the lake, gets the full, treatment on campus. So
head out to Dell Match Play for a little bit out at Austin Country Club, get the full deal.
Nice name, image, and likeness presentation, I'm sure, on campus.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, they better be.
They might change it to the Arch Manning Match Play. They might take Dell right off of that, and now it's welcome to town.
Yeah.
It's your own golf tournament, kid. Anyway.
Do it. Make it happen.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. On the baseball side, since our last show, can we just stop? Like, can Texas baseball no longer travel to South Carolina for games?
Ever again.
This team was just absolutely pummeling people. It wins game 1 in South Carolina and then just gets, I don't know how else to put it. South Carolina then beats them 2 in a row to win that series, lose to College of Charleston, right? And was there a loss to the Citadel in there, or was the game against the Citadel a win? Doesn't matter. It didn't look very good in South Carolina. So the Horns fall to number 2 in the country because of that showing out there. However, they bounced back. They were hanging 17 runs or whatever it was this past weekend against Incarnate Word, which
You should.
but that's the whole point, right? Like, these are teams that you should beat. College of Charleston, you probably should beat, and you don't. So now being able to beat Incarnate Word is getting back on track. This weekend looms as for one, it's the start of conference play. And we've talked about the Big 12 in basketball being a pretty strong conference, but the Big 12 in baseball is not too shabby either. And a trip to the friendly confines of Lubbock are coming up this weekend. Tech is ranked 16th in the country. What do you make of this? I mean, this is first conference series to say, like, hey, this is one you got to have. Might be a little premature, but where are you at on this?
I think the going into this, you got to like the fact that this isn't Texas' first actual road test of the season.
Right.
What they could have done is they could just front load the schedule with a bunch of home games, and even the tournament play is neutral site stuff. So they have actual like away game experience to get into that routine, and you're not just hopping into a hostile Lubbock environment for your first road game, getting into that routine and trying to find your bearings then. So on that note, you gotta like the way that this has been set up for Texas. And again, it's pitching for me, and in Texas on Friday and Saturday you feel good about, and that Sunday starter is sort of still up in the air. There's been a claim laid to that midweek starter here recently. I forget. He had a really nice outing. I think through 7 innings and looked real strong in that midweek matchup. But it's just going to come down to pitching. The hitting, I think, is going to be there, which hasn't always been the case for Texas. Sometimes you rely on your pitching, your small ball, bunt the runners over, that Augie ball type of stuff. And now I think that lineup's all the way up and down. You're not really looking and seeing like, okay, like there's a hole. Like this is a lineup that goes up to plate ready to do business. And that's what I feel strongest about going into a series against Tech, that they're playing really well right now as well, and they're going to be ready to play Texas. So where were you on this one?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I don't want to call it like a must-win series where you have to go up there and get 2 out of 3, or but it almost, to me, it almost kind of has that feel of you kind of have to re-earn your credentials again. You open up the season number 1, you put up some big wins against top competition, but then you get into a pretty good slump there on the, in those games in South Carolina against 3 different opponents. And, okay, well, you fell to number 2. All right. Texas is still getting the respect, but it kind of feels like you go up there and get 2 out of 3, and it's kind of like, okay, all right, now we can kind of calm it back down. You put up all the runs against Incarnate Word, but it's still Incarnate Word. Do we know? I hate saying, like, do we know how good this team actually is? But I think we have a pretty good idea. But that's where you go up there and you only take 1 in Lubbock. You've got A&M coming in midweek to the dish. Like, Oklahoma's the following weekend. Like, you want to start really proving that you're the number 1 or number 2 team in the country here, and getting off to a slow start in conference play. I'm not thinking it's going to happen, but like they need to go up there and win this series, I think.
With you on that. I think it's you definitely want to start conference playoff with a victory, and or with a series victory, I should say, and especially a tough place to play like Lubbock. You start to build that confidence up for the rest of the season, and sort of, is it a launching point for your conference play or not?
Right.
I think Pierce is a good enough coach to where he wouldn't if you win 1 out of 3 up there, I don't think he would let them get their daubers down and let it swing their season. But it sure would be nice to start off with a series win, and then you got Aggie, and then you got the Oklahoma after that. So your schedule in terms of intensity level, it's not going to drop off anytime soon. So I mean, you're cranked up to 10 starting now, and how this team responds will play a big part in how the rest of the season goes. So I think they're so well coached that they'll handle their business, and they'll be fine, man. So it's just, again, this is another good program to be able to talk about and to have on campus. Well coached, well run organization. You know, Troy Tulowitzki over there on the assistant coaching staff, really sort of being that, major league presence that
Volunteer assistant too. That's what's amazing
right.
about it.
So I mean, like, those players are really benefiting from having him around, especially the infielders. So you got to appreciate what's going on there. And like I said, David Pierce is just an all around really good coach. And again, we've had this discussion before. Wasn't the first or second or third choice, when it came time to hiring him. And sometimes it all works out the way that it's supposed to. And as a Texas fan, you got to really like what he's done with this program since he's been here, and the long-term vision for this program as well.
Yeah, I think we got a few minutes, so we won't go too far into it. I think the whole Urban Meyer situation is the perfect example of sometimes it's okay to miss on your top choice. Sometimes it all works out. So
no doubt.
What a bullet dodge there. But
yeah,
glad we were wrong on that one. Anyway,
that's another that we could spend a full show having that conversation.
Man.
But good things happen, and you hope Sark can do the same thing with the football program that Pierce has done with baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a couple minutes. Let's hit on Austin FC real quick. We were in attendance for the Seattle match this past weekend. Another beautiful day out. 1-1 ended up being the draw, being the result. A draw. I think it was the first draw. God, some of the numbers have been staggering on that. Like, it was first game since the Colorado game of last year, where Fagundes scored the first ever club goal, where Austin actually scored a goal after the opponent scored one first. There hadn't been another one since then until this past weekend. So progress, I guess.
Sure.
So
playing from behind, man, that's not something that this team did very well last year at all.
And they look good doing it.
They did look good. This was not, they started off the first half, with their hair on fire, looking like they were going to really control the match. And then you look up at halftime and the stats show that the possession had really evened out. Seattle had sort of, taken their way back into the game, and then, the second half starts, and it's just high octane, high energy from both sides, a really entertaining brand of football to watch. And when you get behind like that, and now Austin FC has the depth, Fagundes is not starting. Last week it was a question mark. I know that we had discussed, like, why isn't that guy in? And I understand that everybody, the guy can't play 90 every week. I get it. But, in a match like that against what's considered one of the top clubs in the league by a lot of people, I would have almost assumed that he would have been a lock for that. I know Wolf might be playing with the lineups a little bit and sort of figuring out how he's going to work with this. Keller was out of the lineup as well. But, Fagundes coming off the bench and being that instant offense, instant difference maker, and equalizing there was really nice. And then, both teams hit the bar in the post a couple of times, and you end up with a 1-1 draw. So what was your biggest takeaway from that match?
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it and kind of say Austin probably deserved 3 points out of it, given the chances that they put together. But I think a draw was fair in the end, because there is still some question marks on the defensive side for Austin that showed themselves. It's going to be interesting because the team is off this week. It's an international break, so there's no match this weekend. Get to have everybody rested up, and maybe do a little bit of tweaking and training. I'd be curious with the team traveling to San Jose next, the following weekend, and San Jose is on 1 point on the season after 4 games. They're 13th in the conference and 25th overall in the league, and they are -5 in goal differential. I know this is an away match, and Austin has traditionally, after one season, struggled on the road. I'm curious what this lineup's going to look like at San Jose. And is Fagundes going to have his place back in the starting lineup? Is Keller, after 2 weeks of training and getting more familiarity, who looked good in the first 2 games, is he going to find his way back into the lineup? And if he does, at the expense of who? Because Gabrielson has shown some flashes. He's big, he's physical, but is the adjustment there? Is he playing, is the speed of the game, so to say, there for him right now? And I don't know. I still feel good about this team. I mean, how can you not? They're sitting in 4th place in the West. They're in a playoff spot right now. They're only, they're in a good position. So, we'll see. It'll be an interesting match against San Jose, because that's one, like the earlier matches in the season, where you can go, you have to go there against a bad San Jose team and get 3 points. You have to.
Yeah, if this team is going to be a playoff team, this is one where you got to get 3, because there's going to be some bumps in the road. There's going to be some, the depth is there a lot more this year than it was last season. So, when the injuries inevitably do happen,
They're going to happen. Yep.
They will happen. When they do happen, this team is better equipped right now to deal with that. But this is definitely a one on the schedule where you look at it and you're like, 3 points is a necessity. So when you do hit those rough patches, you can look back and say, okay, we maximized our points there. Getting a point against Seattle at home, while you would like to get 3, and maybe they deserve the 3, you at least came away with 1 there.
You're undefeated at home.
1. Yeah, exactly. You just got to defend your turf at home. Don't be giving away all your points at home. And when you go on the road against a club like San Jose that is towards the bottom of the table, those are games that you've got to come away with 3. So yeah, feeling good about it. Not a lot of negatives for me right now with this club. Being able to fight back after being down and get a point out of it was a big plus for me. And just Wolf is still tinkering, because while there is a lot more familiarity right now with this club, another year in, still working in some new guys to this, the new signings, the draft picks and things like that, just trying to find where this talent is going to mesh the best. And Wolf is definitely going to earn his money this year. And I think a playoff berth is really what needs to happen for him to show that progress is being made. And so far, so good.
Exactly. Just stay above that playoff line. And I think that, people will be happy throughout this season. So
agreed.
Well, all right, man, this has been a good one. I know we're up against it on time a little bit here, but yeah, glad we were able to get this knocked out and finally get some of our correspondent content out there. I know we've been meaning to do that. So I'm glad hopefully we have more of it coming.
Shout out to Bacon and Eggs Roadshow correspondent Patsy Beebe. Thanks, and Patsy, for contributing to that. We're happy to have that and looking forward to that in the future for sure. Appreciate everybody watching and listening. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button if you already haven't, and hook 'em damn horns, baby.
That's right. And make sure to tune in tonight for Vic Akers and the Lady Longhorns trying to stamp their place into the Elite Eight. So what is that on ESPN tonight? Probably. I think it is. If I'm going to tell people to watch, I should probably know what.
Maybe ESPN2 is where a lot of those games have been aired. So yeah, Vic Schaefer leading the way.
ESPN tonight at
big ESPN.
6 o'clock.
All right, big ESPN. Tune in, everybody. Watch.
At least that's what Google tells me.
So, well, if it's on the internet, it must be true.
That's what I've been told. We'll leave that there. Downfall of society. Man. Anyway.
It's the downfall of society. Good stuff, Kerry. Great show today. Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate y'all.
Thanks, y'all. See ya.
Welcome.
ATX represent. Fatal, baby. All in 06 on a Saturday.